Book of Apollo, son of Jehovah, Chapter 11. 70. A martial list for the host of Apollo, with 10,000 marshals and 50,000 respondents of ceremonies, made ready to receive the host of the Adivasites, commanded by Simead, goddess of Doegi in Etheria, goddess of Noad and Rak, in Jaya, 38, well known to Apollo, and to Phasia, god of Norse, long residence of in Etheria. 2. Simead was a small woman, dark and of deep love, most jovial of goddesses, and had long looked forward with joy to her pleasure of bringing so large a ship to deliver 2,000 million of Jehovah's brides and bridegrooms into Etherian worlds. And so, when the Adivasite was about to land in Gao, Simead looked out from the clusters of central stars, the ornaments of the throne within the ship, to see the host who were assembled beneath, and joyously clapped her hands with delight, whereupon she was saluted by Apollo and Phasia, and by God and his lords. 3. Presently, the mighty vessel landed and anchored fast, and the ship of Apollo was moved up aside and made fast to the Adivasite. Meantime, Simead came forth out of the ship, and was received in the arms of 70, marshalless of Apollo, and then proceeded to the throne of God. 4. All the while, the musicians had been playing and singing, and the music of the lower heaven was thus united with the music of the upper heaven. 5. God said, Welcome, O daughter of Jehovah. Come thou and honor my throne in his name. 6. Simead said, By the grace and love of Jehovah am I come, O God, and to thee, O Apollo, most wonderful of earth-born gods, how can I express my boundless love? And to thee, O Phasia, long-enduring son of Jehovah, my soul is as twin for the glory of our everlasting Creator. 7. Behold, I am come in Jehovah's name to wed these 2,000 million brides and bridegrooms to Jehovah. 8. Phasia said, Thy will in Jehovah's be done. And now they shook hands, as in the custom of gods and goddesses. And Simead went and sat on the throne, saluting all the assemblage by making the sign of Jehovah's name with her right hand, which was answered by 3,000 million spirits. And now the musicians played and sang the stars of Jehovah. Meanwhile, the all-light began to descend thick and fast on Simead's head, so brilliant that many could not look thereon. 9. And Jehovah spake through Simead, saying, I blow my breath upon a corporeal world, and man springeth forth into life, the highest of my created lights. In the womb of I fashion his spirit. When he is shapely and white, I deliver him. I open the heaven of suns and warm his soul. Brighter than diamonds he cometh forth. Male and female come they, as stars from my everlasting worlds, dressed as brides and bridegrooms from my chambers of light and love. In my arms shall they be blessed forever. In my mansions rejoice forever. 10. The respondent said, being led by the Etherian host, I am thy bride, or bridegroom, O Jehovah. My soul findeth love in thee only, forever. 11. Thou, my Father, O Jehovah, I come to thee to abide forever. 12. From my mother the earth who conceived me, I rise me up and go forever. 13. All praise to thee, O Jehovah, and to thee, O God of earth and heaven, and to ye, O lords of the earth, praise forever. 14. Thy lords, O Jehovah, raise me up. How can I render them joy for my stubbornness of heart, and thy God for my second resurrection? 15. How hast thou made us brothers and sisters, O Jehovah, and given to me a higher world to abide in forever? 16. O joy of my soul, to thee am I beholden. O Father, everlasting Creator. 17. Jehovah said, Behold me, O brides and bridegrooms. I am the all that is within all, and over all. Members of my body are all things under the sun, seen and unseen, boundless forever. I give them to you for your inheritance forever. 18. Response. Who can give like unto thee, O Jehovah? Not only gavest thou myself, but sent thy gods and lords to me to teach me how to live and to enjoy the fullness forever. 19. I will rise to thy immortal kingdoms and learn the mysteries of thy glory and wisdom, O Jehovah. And when I am strong, I will go forth to them who are beneath me and raise them up to rejoice forever. 20. Jehovah said, laborers with me, helpmates and companions forever. With ye I wed from everlasting to everlasting. 21. Response. With thee we wed helpmates forever, in the glory of thy worlds without end. 22. Jehovah said, mine are all harmony, all symmetry, all love, and will endure forever. 23. Response. When I was in darkness, I fed on hate and anger and war and lust. But thou hast taught me harmony and symmetry and love, and I shall indulge in them forever. 24. Jehovah said, receive ye my mantles and my crowns, O my beloved. The darkness is come and gone. The rain is dried up, and my flowers are blooming for you, my beloved. 25. Response. Glory be to thee, my creator and preserver. All hail to thy wondrous works, O Jehovah. In all my giving, I cannot attain to thee forever. Thy crown shall shine in my behavior, world without end. Amen. 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 26. Jehovah, thou art mine forever. Amen. 27. I am thine, O Jehovah, forever. Amen. Amen. Chapter 12. The rites of the resurrections were completed, the whole of which would make a book, where the words written down. And as for the music, for which there were 500,000 singers and players, scarce a conception of it can be given to mortals. And when the light of the throne of God broke away a little, God announced 6 hours recreation, whereupon all the angels of Gao and of the Etherian heavens mingled together joyfully. 2. And after this, for behold, the end of the dawn of Dan had come. Apollo, mightiest of all, rose up and waved his hand in the sign, in Jehovah's name, and stood aside from the throne of God. After Apollo, Simead rose up and gave the same sign, followed by Phasia. And when these 3 stood aside, high raised on the floor of the throne, so that all the assembled millions could see them, so hushed were all things, like as if time had come to an end. 3. Then filed in front the 10,000 lords and lordesses, they who had once been false gods and false lords, and of the ancient times, arrayed in such gorgeous attire, now robed in plain white, and without ornaments. 4. The marshals opened the arches of the Adivacit, but yet not a soul moved from his or her place. 5. Then great Apollo, and Simead, and Phasia came down and sat at the foot of the throne, more loved than all the gods who had as yet visited the earth and her heavens. 6. God came down from the throne and took Apollo's hand, saying, arise, O son of Jehovah, and go thy way. Apollo rose up, himself in tears, and stood aside. When God now took the hand of Simead, saying, arise, O daughter of Jehovah, and go thy way. Next he raised up the long-tried Phasia, when lo, both he and God burst into tears, and fell into each other's arms. Phasia, of few words at most, was last to slack the fond embrace. And then he and great Apollo and Simead, light of heaven, broke loose and marched forth to Etherian ship of fire. God resumed the throne, blinded by his tears. 7. Now fell the mantles of Jehovah and his crowns on the 2,000 million brides and bridegrooms. The awakening light of the Etherian firmament bespoke Jehovah's awful presence. The host moved with one accord, and presently entered into the Adivacit, amidst a shower of Aetherian flowers. 8. The marshal signaled, for the dawn was ended. The bright Simead stretched forth her slender hand and arm to Jehovah, saying, By the power, O Father, I command, arise, arise, ad ave sit, arise. 9. And the mighty vessel and the vessel of Apollo adjoined, arose up from Gao, rocking, rising, and moving to the music of 1,000,000 trumpeters and singers, joined by the Essenars of the lower heavens. Higher and higher rose the Aetherian fire ships, turning and rising, passing beyond the vortex of the earth, beyond Chinbet, out into the firmament of Aetheria, higher and higher, till all was lost in the distance. Chapter 13. Jehovah spake in the light of the throne of God, saying, To the council of Gao, heaven of my heaven, hear ye the words of your Creator, O my beloved. Sing songs to Apollo and his lords. Let my people rejoice, for the glory of my Son is upon them. 2. From my kingdom is the light and the life. Out of my wisdom Apollo hath come. Sing to him, O ye lords of heaven. Let my angels rejoice in his name, for he shall abide forever. 3. Created I him for the glory of angels and men. In his idols and images shall my people behold the harmony of my beloved. With mine own hands molded I the ankles and feet, and well-rounded thighs. Behold the arms of my Son, no longer than to the thighs, and with dimples and small wrist. 4. His neck is straight and slender, and smooth and round, like the higgin on an altar, and his shoulders like hewn stone, polished and tapering, like a woman's who goeth not to war. 5. His instep is high. He can spring like a deer, swift as the wind. He sitteth not on his haunches all day, with his hands down, like a druck that is tired, waiting for food. He fleeth to the plain and to the forest on his swift feet. 6. Proclaim ye Apollo in heaven and on earth. He is risen. Higher than the sun is the holy begotten of Jehovah. Out of the virgin Mai is he come, holy, in symmetry and music. There is none like Apollo. 7. She was my betrothed from the foundation of the world, spouse of your Creator, O God. Her name was Mai, mother of mine holy begotten Son. 8. They were without shapeliness before me. They lolled about on earth. They lolled in heaven. On their haunches waited they hungrily. 9. The virgin bowed down, for her firstborn was the Redeemer of the world. In stone and wood and copper and gold and silver is he stronger than 10 cities, and wiser than 10,000 men. 10. He cometh to the young mother's dream, and shapeth her unborn, with limbs like a racer, and with long hair on the head. He standeth in the idol, and knoweth the mother's prayer every day, who calleth on the name, Apollo, calleth on the Father, Creator of all things. 11. Blessed are the lords of Apollo. Blessed are the sons and daughters of Apollo. Blessed are they that bring forth in shapeliness like my son, Apollo. 12. This mark have I put up before all women under the sun, the young woman before marriage, and before the young men before marriage. 13. Choose ye of them in the likeness of Apollo. Your heirs shall glorify your Creator. 14. Apollo is my judge. He sitteth on my right hand. Swifter than an arrow is his judgment on a woman's firstborn. Chapter 14. Jehovah spake from the light of the throne of God, saying, Hear the words of your Creator, O ye counselors of heaven. 2. They spin and weave and make clothes. They learn in the places of learning. Neither do I condemn them. 3. But my physicians are tired. My nurses are tired. My teachers are tired. Be wise, O my sons and daughters. Who hath reformed a beggar by giving to him? What physician preventeth sickness by healing? 4. They bring forth in deformity on the earth, and ye must cure them in heaven. They squat on their haunches on earth, and they squat the same way in heaven, and ye must cure them. 5. Go ye to the root of the matter, O my beloved. Send ye down to the kingdoms of my lords, and say to them, Thus saith Jehovah, follow them, O my lords. Double the number of Ashars, double the Lewis. Leave no young man alone, leave no young woman alone. Keep over them day and night. Give them visions and dreams of Apollo, for I am concerted in heaven and on earth to remold the forms of the earthborn. 6. Jehovah said, Hear your Creator, O Gal. Make 7 more plateaus for the second resurrection. Out of the idolatry of my son Apollo will I beautify the inhabitants of the earth, and the cast and mold of men and of women shall become a great power. 7. Jealousies will overspread the earth. Jealousies will rise in the first resurrection. Make 7 more plateaus in the second resurrection, and sort the Essenes in the hour of birth. 8. God and the council perceived, and so God appointed workmen, and fulfilled the commandments of Jehovah. And he established 700 tributary kingdoms of the second resurrection belonging to Gal. 9. These sub-kingdoms were provided with sub-gods, second in rank below the lords, of whom there were 10,000 who had direct supervision of mortals. And the lords had every one a sufficiency of guardian angels, Ashars and Lewis, masters of generations, so that they could direct any required number to such mortals as they chose. 10. The lords mostly established their heavenly kingdoms and the temples where mortals came to worship, and by inspiration they established spirit chambers near the altars, where the prophets sat to learn the decrees of the Lord. Hither the Lewis came to receive their appointments over mortals, for the purpose of bringing about marriages acceptable before Jehovah. 11. The affairs of the sub-gods were, however, holy, with matters in heaven, save when commanded by the lords for special work. 12. And it came to pass that mortals and the affairs of mortals were directed and governed by the decrees of the lower heavens, and these again by the Etherian heavens, which were of Jehovah direct. 13. So Jehovah changed the forms of the earthborn, but they became worshippers of Apollo, accrediting to one another Jehovah's perfection in them, according to the form and figure of the flesh. And because of the idolatry of the woman for Apollo, their children were born of good flesh and shapely, so that in 400 years the hair on their heads grew long and straight, and man began to have beards. Neither considered any young man any virtue in a young woman so important as her form. 14. And when mortals died, and their spirits entered the first resurrection, half the labor of the Asaphs, the receiving angels, was accomplished. 15. So God changed the Essenes period to 3 years, save for their heirs of cousins and uncles and aunts, which was left at 5 years. Chapter 15. So perfect was the way of heaven, that, at the end of 400 years, God and his lords and his sub-gods had ready for the third resurrection of grade 88, 8,500 million souls for Jehovah's harvest. 2. So Apollo sent Adava, division goddess of Reth and Coke, in Etheria, down to the lower heaven, to deliver God and his host. And they were thus raised up to Etheria in a sea of fire, and made one with Jehovah. 3. In like manner was the next government in the lower heaven and on the earth, and the next deliverance in Dan was 10,000 million souls of grade 65. 4. In like manner was the next administration in the lower heaven and on the earth, and the deliverance was 10,000 million of grade 50. 5. In like manner was the next administration on the earth and in the lower heavens, and the deliverance was 10,000 million of grade 38. So Apollo commanded these to be delivered in the Aegean fields of Oth, and Sennac, and Orient, for they were unsuited for Etheria. 6. In like manner was the next administration in the lower heaven and on the earth, and the deliverance was 16,000 million, but they were of grade 24. So Apollo commanded them to be delivered in the nebulous straits of Copowachiaka for further development. 7. In like manner was the next administration in the lower heaven, but not so on the earth. For the kings and queens carried the idolatry too far, and mortals took to destroying ill-formed children and cripples, thus casting the ills of mortality into heaven. So there was no deliverance for the last Dan of Apollo's cycle, and Jehovah received no harvest. 8. Thus ended the cycle of Apollo, being 2,800 years. End of Book of Apollo.